What is up, guys? Delboy here. So this weekend marks the start of the World Boxing Super Series Super Middleweight Tournament, and it's kicked off with Callum Smith versus Erik Skoglund. I'm going to do a brief prediction video for this fight. Firstly, Callum Smith comes into this fight with a record of 22 wins, 0 defeats, 0 draws, 17 of those 22 wins coming by way of stoppage. Erik Skoglund, he comes into this fight with a record of 26 wins, 0 defeats, 0 draws, with 12 of those 26 wins coming by way of stoppage. If we quickly look at the physical attributes, Callum Smith is 6'3", whereas Erik Skoglund is 6'1". When I look at both guys, it's hard to tell who's got the longer arms. I can't see online about the reach or the arm length, so it's hard to judge. But both guys have particularly long arms, especially Callum Smith. He's a big guy for super middleweight, and also Erik Skoglund is coming down. Both of these guys have a good reach. And in terms of competition fought, I think it's relatively even, to be quite honest. Callum Smith has wins over the likes of Rocky Fielding, Christopher Robrase, Hadil Mohammadi, guys like that. And Skoglund has wins over the likes of Glenn Johnson, Rhino Lindenberg, Derek Edwards, who knocked out Badu Jack all those years ago, Luke Blackledge, who Callum Smith also beat. The levels of competition are relatively similar. You may give the edge to Callum Smith in terms of competition fought. They've both fought on that sort of European level, but they've never really gone above that. So both of these guys have a lot in common. Let's talk about Erik Skoglund first, because he's a guy that not many people are familiar with. I've had a look at Erik Skoglund online, and he actually campaigned at light heavyweight and is coming down for this fight. He's coming down for this tournament, I should say. And his hands are relatively quick. He can put his shots together quite well. He's got a nice repertoire of punches. He's got a sneaky nice uppercut when you come in. He can keep his punches long. He can work the body. He's got a mix and match kind of style. He doesn't really stick to one thing. Who he reminds me of, actually, he reminds me of Nathan Cleverly a little bit, especially in terms of his stance and his footwork. And I'm talking about Nathan Cleverly of like 2011, 2012. When he was sort of on the come up, not the version we've seen in recent years. That's who he reminds me of, but I think Skoglund has slightly better technique. He's got slightly better footwork, and he does put his shots together well. He's not terrible by any means, and I think there are things he can trouble Callum Smith with. I've seen him use like a persistent jab. It's not like a heavy jab, but he'll keep on throwing it. As I said, the hand speed, punch variation. I definitely think he can trouble Callum Smith with that, because Callum Smith, to me, is extremely upright. Defensively, I'm not sure how good Callum Smith is. The only thing I've seen from Callum Smith defensively is a high guard, and that doesn't look particularly strong. It's all well and good having a high guard, but you need to know how to use it. Look at somebody like Badu Jack, for example. His high guard is perfect, but Callum Smith's high guard seems penetrable, And we've seen that with Joe Gallagher fighters when they step up. Guys like Anthony Crolla, a fighter, but once he stepped up, he was found wanting both sort of offensively and defensively. There wasn't enough there to compete at the world level, at the highest level. And that's one of the reasons I've kind of doubted Callum Smith for all of these years. He does things very well. He's got good power. He's a good body puncher. He's got a good jab when he uses it. He can counterpunch. We saw against Mohammadi when he was on the ropes, he landed a lovely counter left hook. There are skills there. He's got things going for him, but I just wonder, is he sort of versatile enough? Is he too one-dimensional to compete at world level? That's the question I have. And whether Skoglund can sort of exploit that or not, I don't know. But I think he can do things that can give Callum Smith trouble. I really do. If you've got busy hands and quick feet, I think that's automatically going to give Callum trouble. And Skoglund does have quick hands. He is busy from what I see of him. He likes to throw shots, get in and out, use his feet, use his legs. Technically, Skoglund is open, so he's open for that counter left hook. He's definitely open for a nice right hand down the pipe. He's a fighter who kind of relies on his in and out game, his reactions, his athletic ability. That's what he relies on. And I think that in itself is going to give Callum Smith trouble. I think we could see Callum Smith struggle for a few rounds here. I really do. I think Skoglund is going to give Callum Smith an extremely tough fight. But ultimately, when you look at both guys, I'd still say Callum Smith is the better technician. He throws his shots much more, he throws his shots in a much better fashion. Technically, these shots are being delivered better. He's landing with his knuckle part of his gloves, whereas Skoglund is kind of just sort of letting his hands go and for the sake of it kind of thing. Or not necessarily for the sake of it, but I don't feel there's any sort of plan to Skoglund's game when he fights. Callum Smith is a lot more cerebral. And just in terms of the boxing basics, boxing one-on-one, Callum Smith is a better boxer. He's got more technical ability than Erik Skoglund. But I really do feel that the athleticism of Skoglund is going to give Callum Smith a bit of trouble. It's just whether, number one, if he gets caught, and when he gets caught, how's he going to deal with it? If Erik Skoglund is one of these guys who has a granite chin, like a Rebresse, who Callum Smith fought a few years back, if he's got a chin like that, this is going to be a tough fight for Callum Smith, mark my words. Because if it turns into a boxing match, although I said Callum's a better technician, can he match Skoglund for pace? I'm not so sure. I don't think Callum Smith is a great volume guy, to be quite honest. He's very economical with his shots. And can he turn up the gears if he's losing a few rounds? Can he change his game plan? Can he adapt? I'm not so sure, I have to say. And like I said, I honestly feel that Skoglund has a style that can cause Callum trouble. He's got a style that can win rounds, but the problem is, I think Skoglund's style is easy to counter, and defensively, I don't think Skoglund is too good. Glenn Johnson was sort of tagging him quite a lot. I've seen him get hit quite a lot in his fights, and I've seen him take some damage, So defensively, he might let himself down because he is extremely open. His guard is poor. He backs up with his chin in the air. Skoglund has a lot of bad habits. You can tell he relies on his sort of athletic ability quite a lot. But yeah, I'm picking Callum Smith to win. I'm picking him by late stoppage or a points win. I do feel this fight is better than people are giving it credit for. I think Skoglund is arguably Callum Smith's best opponent to date. And that does raise questions about his experience level and his resume, especially going into the tournament if he wins. Even if he beats Erik Skoglund, who's he beat to prepare him for the likes of George Groves or Chris Eubank Jr., But yeah, it's an interesting fight stylistically, in my opinion. I think Callum's going to come through because of his better boxing skills, his counter-punching ability, his superior power, the body punching. I think he'll come through, but I think he might have a few sort of awkward moments, some frustrating moments. I think Skoglund can make him look bad in there at times and look a little bit pedestrian. But I expect Callum to come through with a late stoppage or points win. How do you guys see this fight going? Peace.